Okay, guys, this is Simon with ToughTrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching on one very interesting ES and NQ trading day. Pretty much straight up on ES. I haven't seen a day like this in a long, long time. Saw a lot of people calling for blow-off tops today. And it looked like we almost got it for like a nanosecond. And then shorts just getting their face ripped off. I haven't seen a face ripper on NQ and ES like that in the afternoon. Just straight down and V-shaped straight back up. Really dangerous to short the top of a market. I've said that numerous times. If you took a shot anywhere in here, you better been pretty damn quick to cover just to minimize your losses through here. I mean, this was just, you got people overly committed on the shorts, and they just, looks like they ripped the hedge funds faces off. Actually, they got short into the news. So let's start from the top and work our way backwards. I think it's probably the best way to do this. There's nothing for me to do. The market went straight up, and I wasn't here to buy the dip, so absolutely nothing for me to trade from that perspective. So let's get started. Number one, let's look at what we were looking at in the preview coming into the day from a profile standpoint. The trade plan was here. Let's pull this up. Make sure this works. There we go. And let's go over to our TPO charts. And let's look at NQ and ES. We'll just kind of break them both down. Here's ES. I'll do this just all in one column. Okay, so let's break this down to one column and make sure my chart setting is correct. I do. Okay, great. We'll bring this in a little bit. I'll bring this in a little bit. Okay, so precept number one, right? When we started the day, we talk about the idea of the neighborhood and our friends being in the neighborhood and helping us out in determining which way we want to trade at the beginning of the day, right? It doesn't really matter what you're trading, right? Some products are more volatile than others, but the precept is the same, right? I take this off the profile. Again, this is really my interpretation of how I use the profile. I don't know how classical it is in terms of the view, but this is how I look at it. When I'm above, right? When I'm above my prior day's value area, the value area as defined by Dalton is where 70% of the prior day's volume has gone off. There's not much of a conversation about that, right? It's a simple mathematical calculation, right? When we open above that area, right? So I said two things. First of all, if we don't trade back into the value area, it's extremely bullish. And I said that this morning. If you go back and look, I said, if we spend the first half hour, 45 minutes outside of the prior day's value area in either ES and NQ, and I figured it was going to be NQ, but it turned out to be ES, right? If we spend more than 45 minutes outside of that value area in that period of time, you got to know that the chances of pushing up are very, very strong. You don't want to be short. So look at what NQ did and what ES did. So I had a plan this morning, right? And I laid it out. My plan was to look for a long near 6203. I had it labeled out. That was value area high from yesterday. And I had a plan to grab about 6415 was my plan. It was actually just above the white zone that I published, right? Just below the white zone that I had published. And I said 6415 was the location I really, really wanted if they gave me an opportunity to grab it, and that I would take either one of those long if it came in. So when we come back over here, why did I want that? Because I'm counting on my friends in both of these neighborhoods down here to offer me help in a push in. And I simply said I was going to take NQ and I was going to take a 10-point stop on that trade. And the goal was to swing it back to the high of the day and then let it trail up. I thought I was going to have a bigger day than I had because I couldn't get the extension on NQ all day long. And luckily, I ended up just leaving for lunch, and I did fine with the trade. But I really thought it was going to push just like ES pushed, and that was not the case for the day. And end of statement, right? So let's go look at, if you look at it from this perspective, right? Look how the market treated these areas. I'm going to break this out. See in the morning how we pushed right down into the value area. Now, I could have gotten more specific and said the volume point of control, the TPO point of control. It pushed back further than where I entered the trade, right? But the fact is, when I'm coming in for the following day and I'm making this chart, no one can know exactly where it's going to push in, right? Now, you can have a trading rule that says if it gets back to the volume point of control, I'm willing to take risk there and I'm willing to take a long. That's fine. I felt that with the way we're making higher highs, higher lows, buyers are in control, I'm willing to be more aggressive on my entries to the long side than I otherwise would normally be willing to do, right? I want to say that again. I was willing to be more aggressive with my entries to the long side than I normally would be willing to do. If we were in a down market, I would have preferred to wait till we got a stronger buy signal before just jumping in at the beginning of the day. So if we go back to the chart and we look how that translated on a 5-minute chart, right? We had a couple other things that were helping me out. So first of all, let me pull this over here. Wow, this is right in my way, so I'm going to move it. There we go. So if we look out of the gate, first of all, we were talking about this yesterday. I'm going to talk about it again today. First of all, if you look at the advancers, we came in after the first 15 minutes, we were above 1,500. That instantly, just like yesterday morning, we opened below 1,500. I said there's a good chance we open just above the range. If we trap back inside that range, there was a good chance that we would roll down. And even without trapping back in the range, it was very unlikely for two reasons. The tick was weak yesterday at the open, number one, right? And number two concept was that the advancers were not very strong out of the gate. And as a matter of fact, in addition to the advancers not being very strong, the decliners were accelerating pretty strong in the morning as well. That was kind of a double dose, and it was the opposite here. You see the decliners advanced and then leveled off, while decliners advanced and then leveled off, while advancers continued getting stronger and stronger through the course of the day, right? So everyone sees that. I'm sure it's not a very difficult read from that standpoint, right? So immediately I'm going, okay, with the tick being above 1,500, to me, the advancers being above 1,500, I'm going to come in and look now on this chart. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to go, oh, tick open positive 600, right? Look how drastically different that is from yesterday morning. Zero line, right? I know that people are actually being pretty aggressive here, right? Additionally, I'm opening above and holding above prior day's high. Remember, this 2603 is where I'm wanting to get long, right? I understand that there's strength there. I'm wanting to front run the open gap, right? And then here was my thought, and this was the odd thing that happened. I thought I was going to get filled on ES and not filled on NQ because of the strength that we had in NQ, right? So I'm stacking up evidence as the course goes through the day. So I want to stop, and I want to stack that evidence up for everyone one more time, right? First, we're going to start at the open. We had a strong open, right? Compared to yesterday, the advancers were much stronger than they were in the morning. We were trading above prior day's high, like we were yesterday morning, but with a strong advance. Tick was strong, and we failed to be able to fill the gap or even push back into the range on ES, right? In NQ, we gapped up, right? We traded sideways. It was a little weaker, but I was willing to take it because NQ's been the leader all the way up in this rally, right? So I'm long right here. This is where I'm sitting, 64.15. This is where I'm waiting to get long, and I pop my first trade, and then I have to go through a whole bunch of waiting to get the second half of my trade to work, right? Next, I did not want to be short. Why did I not want to be short? I did not want to be short because even if that was right, meaning even if we had completely fallen apart, wow, let me fix this here real quick. Wrong desktop. There we go. Sometimes technology causes a few issues. Let's see if we get this fixed this time. There we go. Next, drag this over. Okay, so next, I opened above where I had help. This is the neighborhood I was looking to get help from. I knew that unless I either opened up below and pushed into this location, right, or I traded clear through and then got a backside test, I made a tactical decision, right? I decided that these people were going to be willing to help me out, right, with my long side trade first time into this area. And that was correct, right? We got that part right. So tactically, even though hypothetically someone in here shorted and got paid, so when I look to later in the day, I'm going to address that in just a second with regards to the roll to the downside, right? I'll cover that in just a moment. Those were the reasons why I wanted to be long this morning, right? So short never entered my mind. I was hoping to get a pushback into the value area high so I could grab the long, and I was willing to ride that into the TPO point of control, and I was willing to ride that into the volume point of control from yesterday, both of which were located in this area right here, which is what we ended up turning back into. I was just willing to be a little more aggressive to get the long, and it paid, right? So next, look through the course of the day as it established. So you'll notice, number one, after we consolidate, right, what's the first thing I said this morning? If we spend 45 minutes and we don't push back into the prior day's high, watch out for a strong push to the upside. Now, I should have been more aggressive right over here. I was willing to get in 03. They just didn't fill me, but I knew better than to short this run up. No one in the room, as far as I know, no one in the room was short for this. I don't know that anyone was long, but no one was short. I know several people got the long on NQ right out of the gate and were able to collect 8 to 10 points in this first rotation back to the upside, right? Additionally, if you look, even when we push down on this low, so I want to talk about this low here real quick. And this is mostly, again, for the members in the room, just so they understand what I'm looking at. When I bring over, right, today, we don't have a good read. We can't use tick as a read, right? But we can use delta to give us some information about what's going on, right? And if we look over here on NQ, when we were pushing the first low of the day, bring this all the way over here, right? So see when we pushed to the low of the day, we had negative delta of negative 1236, right? On the next low, and it's odd, so I had to reload the data. Originally, this was actually done on divergence. When I reloaded, I had to reload the data, and it actually showed a stronger push, but just barely, right? So what this is showing me is where my volume points of control are, right? You can see they're all clustered right in the 6418 from this part of the day, right? And it's showing me where the point of control is from each individual bar. So when we pushed, right? When we pushed to the downside and underneath the day's low, right? Remember what we're pushing into is right into this value area. When we're pushing in, this is where we're pushing right into the volume point of control and right into the heart where 70% of the volume went off. That is not where I want to be making a push. That same push coming underneath that value area and then an inability to close back in, that could start a roll back to the downside. This push, right? This push right here, you're just running straight into a wall of people defending their positions from the prior day. Everyone gets that, right? So then what happened in that close? Not only did we push underneath, right? So remember, this is yesterday's area, right? This is the open, right? We've pushed back underneath. We close. This is my closing area. We close above where the prior low was, right? It's a new low close for a 10-minute bar, but so what, right? We've closed back into the trading range. They have tried really, really hard. And what you will find is the market has this funny thing, right? When it's really going to break down, it actually gets a close right below, and then it tears to the downside when it's going to break down. When it's not going to roll hard to the downside, it pushes below and then close back in. That's clue number one. That's clue number one that I want to be long there, right? I don't want to be short. I want to be long. Clue number two, look at the time. We're at 9:50 a.m. Look at ES. This is 9:50 a.m. ES has not even rolled down a hair. We can't even get underneath the last attempt to sell, and we can't get underneath the bottom of our last up bar on a 10-minute chart, right? There's simply no selling here in ES. This is all concentrated. I understand that Apple was weak. This is all concentrated in NQ, right? It's very hard for the market. It can be done, but it's very hard for the market to take off completely on its own, right? Very, 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 very difficult, right? So if you look, we got absolutely no selling at 9:50 a.m. As a matter of fact, that push down to the downside, you see delta increase. See this? Look at the negative 21.52, negative 26.34, and it can't even get below the low of its prior low of that bar. And look how heavy the delta is, right? Look how heavy the delta is, and it can't make any progress to the downside. That causes this short squeeze right over here. Again, I'm not necessarily buying it, but I'm sure as heck not shorting it. And I'm coming back over here going, hey, right? So remember my trailer, how I'm managing this trailer over here on NQ when I'm over here is I had to stop 10 points below 64.14, right? So I'm still sitting in here going, hey, I'm really happy this closed back in, right? Because I still want my shot back up to the upside, right? And I got it, right? I got my move back to the upside, right? So then look at the next part. We close above, and if this is going to be your entry here, right? On this entry, you've got a beautiful entry with an easy stop. Where are you going to put your stop? Just 1 point below the low, and hope that we don't get back below. Because if we close below the second, if we close below the original low of the day, right? This is now a break of IB low. You would look for a roll to the downside. And look where it accelerated later in the day, right? Look when we pulled over here, right? You'll see this is what it looks like when you get a beginning of a push to the downside. This is a clear break. We gently came down close to the low, and then they accelerated through, right? See how they accelerated through? Really, really hard. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? Look at the delta, negative 1830. If we get above these guys, these are our heaviest sellers, right? So immediately you're going to go and go, hey, if I trap back in, then I get above 64.13, you should be thinking immediately, we're behind my last heaviest sellers of the day, right? If you look through here and you go from the open, from this morning, there is not a single heavier seller all the way through this than right here. So watch what happens to the right. I close at, so first of all, I'm above the mid. Now I've closed above, right? As soon as we get above, see how they take it right above? And these guys are just praying at this point, right? But it's really all over once we close inside 64.10. It's all over right here. And you see everyone got pretty tentative. Look at the delta. 129, 179. No one's really excited. Uh-oh. Jump. 745. We get above our last seller. 1358, then 1751. You may say, well, look, Simon, it came right down. That's true, but we ripped from 64.13 to 64.26 in that one little move. This really illustrates, guys, for all of y'all, when we get above that last seller, you do not want to be looking for shorts in any way, shape, or form. You want your shorts coming off the top and showing weakness. And there's another setup there I'll cover at a later point, right? So let's go through this one more time for the day. Oh, and one other point, right? When we're looking at the chart, and if we look at the day's trade plan on NQ, right? We came up, we got to Monday's high. This was the white zone. We opened up and pressed down into the white zone in the open 2 times, then rotated up. So this is test 1, right? This is test 2, right? Because we actually got negative space and pushed in. This is test 3 into the white zone. You're really pushing your luck at this point on the 3rd test. We finally get the news, and look how well they baited everyone in, because I believe I tweeted right about here that NQ was looking weak, right? And there's a problem with it. Well, then the news of the North Korean news comes out, and they sweep them to the downside, right? Now watch this. Where do we come into? Right into the top of the white zone, 63.90, right? 63.90 to 63.80, right from the top of the white zone. We get above our last seller. Remember, this is a smaller time frame, right? So on the delta chart, you're looking at it from a 10-minute time frame, because I want a more accurate read of what I'm looking at, right? But on the 5-minute chart, right, we clearly close above our last seller, right? And then look, they never look back, never even give you another red bar back to the downside. We trap back into the range right here, and it is just on fire. Now we're backside testing this white zone yet one more time, and my guess is at the close, they're just going to push it straight up to the high of the day. It's certainly what I would do if it were me, is I'd want to go for a move to the high of the day. So my figuring is that's what they are going to attempt to do here at the close. Anything less, and I would be really, really surprised at this point, because there's just nothing that's going to let those shorts off the hook at this point, right? And why should they? So that's how the day unfolded. That's how I would have read it, read the chart through the course of the day. I wish I could have been here. I don't know that I would have taken the long here. I certainly think I would have taken the long here against a stop at the low of the day. Again, we've been reviewing this setup multiple times a day, right? Every single day. Get above the last seller, be on a stretch to the downside. This is a rotation from 64.24 all the way down to 63.94. Approximately, I think that's an even 30 points. Get above the last seller, find a way to get long, for a push to the upside. I just wasn't here to take it. I thought we were going to have a nice leisurely afternoon of just driving up, and I just couldn't make my car go fast enough to get back to the office to take the trade. C'est la vie. Anyone have any questions, guys? Oh, and I want to remind everyone, because I'm late on this, right? I did not throw it up. Here we go. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. Please don't follow anyone blindly. Understand the risks involved in the market. Have a risk trade plan and an execution trade plan, and follow it in a disciplined fashion. If you don't know how to do that, there's lots of people, including myself, who can teach you how to do that. But don't just trade emotionally. It's not worth it. You'll simply annihilate your trading account. It's truly, truly, truly not worth it, guys. That's all I can say on that. Any questions, guys? Floor's open. I think I covered it pretty well, but if I didn't, I'm willing to answer the questions. Okay, guys. Good job. From what I heard, everyone did pretty well today. I didn't hear anybody getting run over in that rotation down. I didn't hear anyone getting caught short on the way back up. Congratulations. That is not an easy thing to accomplish, right? If you let your emotions get in the way of a move like this, it's very easy to go, hey, it's short, hey, it's not. What's your baseline for figuring that out? Well, it's very simple. Go back over to your chart, over to the left, right? Go back over to your TPO chart and go, where's my value area? What's below me? What's above me? Where are my friends? Where's the neighborhood I can go to and look for some assistance, for some help on a push to the upside? So for tomorrow, right, if you come in all bearish, guess what? We have to get below, for tomorrow, you have to get below and hold below 2608 to come back and explore areas, right? Unless your trade plan says specifically, hey, I short, right? Unless your trade plan says specifically, I short and I'm a top caller and that's how I make my living. You're not making a living for very long. There's no reason to look short unless you can get at least, to start with, 2615 is your first marker, 2609 on NQ, right, for today. Your markers are pretty straightforward, right? There's not a lot of complicated charting in this. You're going to have to get below 6410, and you have a good low here at the bottom that they put in excess at the low. You're going to have to get below that, okay? If you cannot get below that, forget about it. We have more up, and I will review tonight. I'll try to get a video out for the members to show you what it looks like when we get underneath when we get under the sellers and they start pushing to the downside. I will post a video on that so you know exactly what it looks like. Okay, guys? Thank y'all so much for trading well. It makes my job much easier to help y'all and following the trade plan. That's very, very good. And my hat's tipped to all of y'all. Really, it's just very impressive how you handled yourselves today. I didn't hear anyone getting run over. Everyone's using every single day as a learning opportunity to get better for the following day. We can't get promised that we'll have a good trading opportunity every single day, right? Just can't happen, right? We just don't get those. You know, they don't flash before our eyes every single day. But if we keep gathering the information, keep gathering the knowledge, most traders don't make money every single day. But if you avoid giving back any of your money while you're in the process of making more money, well, then you have a huge, huge, huge opportunity. Then you have a huge, huge, huge opportunity that when you see your killer setup, you'll be able to take advantage of it. And I know that setup where we spend 45 minutes above prior day's value, I know more and more of y'all will catch that trade to the upside. More and more of y'all will catch the tops of the white zones back to the upside on 30-point stretches. And more of you will catch when we get above the last seller. You're going to start to see the light that getting above that last seller, even without the complication of looking at delta, volume pushes. You know, we've had a big push down and we get above that last seller. I know more and more of y'all are going to catch that and that your accounts will do well if you will stay away from trading emotionally when you feel like you should have done better. Go back to your journal, the same thing I do every day. What could have I done better? How can I improve? And I'm constantly driving for that, and I'd encourage you to do the same. All of y'all are capable of making the money you think you're capable of making, right? It just won't come every single day, and you should discern and dissect what your home run trades look like, right? So that you have a book of them, because they don't show up that often. So when they do show up, you can be there to knock them right in the head. Anyways, have a great night, guys. Thank you all for being part of the room. I'm truly grateful y'all are here. I'll see y'all all tomorrow morning.